Hi, this is Dave Villar with Pacific Coast Benefits, and today I'm here to do an overview of your Anthem Blue Cross Solutions PPO 2500. Inside of your Employee Navigator portal, you're going to find benefit summaries for all three of your health plan options, along with these videos that will do a brief overview of coverages inside and outside of the network. Going over the deductibles, coinsurance, copays, and some of the most commonly used parts of a health plan. I'm also going to refer you to the summary plan description, which you'll also see inside your portal, which will give you much more details on specific coverages. Also, any questions that you might have, you can always feel free to reach out to us at Pacific Coast Benefits to answer any specific questions you might have. With all PPO plans, you have the ability to use in-network or non-network providers. It is always to your benefit, whenever possible, to use providers that are inside of a PPO network. The main reason why we're going to talk about in a moment is that your deductible, your out-of-pocket expense, and your copays for specific procedures will always be lower when you use in-network providers versus non-network providers. The first thing we're going to talk about is your overall deductible. A deductible is what you pay first for specific large medical claims, excluding office visits, wellness, and prescription drugs. If you end up in the hospital, have an outpatient surgery, have some MRI, CT scanning, specific procedures that are done on an outpatient basis, you're going to meet your deductible first before the plan begins to pay its percentage of the claim. Inside of the network, you're going to see that the deductible is $2,500 for a single person, and it's twice that for a family. So if you have a spouse or a spouse and children, the largest deductible you'll pay for a family is $5,000. When you go outside the network, you're going to see that those expenses double. Again, another reason why it's very important to stay inside of the network whenever possible. Once you've met your deductible, let's just say you end up in the hospital and you're in there for a week and it's a $500,000 claim. The plan is going to have you pay a percentage of the claim, but your out-of-pocket limit, or when you stop paying as a single person, is $6,350 or $12,700 for a family. These dollar amounts include your deductible. So the example here, this plan, and we're going to get into this in a minute, but this plan pays 80% after your deductible to your max out-of-pocket of $6,350. So if I went to the hospital and had a significant claim, I would pay the first $2,500. The insurance would pay 80% of whatever was remaining. I would pay 20%, but my 20% would stop when my total out-of-pocket was $6,350. If I have a family and more than one of us have a catastrophic claim in a year, my family maximum out-of-pocket is $12,700. Again, when you look outside the network, you're going to see that those numbers are much more substantial. So when you have the opportunity to stay in network, please do so. The Anthem Blue Cross PPO network is extremely large. It's very easy to stay inside of the Prudent Buyer network. We can assist you looking up doctors and hospitals if in fact you have any questions. The next thing we're going to talk about is preventative care. With the Affordable Care Act, there are 63 specific benefits that are listed under preventative that are covered at 100%. Most of these are wellness examinations, screenings for specific diseases if in fact you're at a certain age, or if you have a family history of certain diseases. Those things, if you remain in network and use network providers, are going to be covered at 100%. If you go outside the network, you're going to pay 40% of the cost of that procedure after you've met your deductible. So obviously, you're going to want to stay in network whenever you can when you're having preventative screenings, immunizations done. Routine office visits on this plan for either a primary care doctor, a specialty care doctor, or pre- and postnatal care are all a $25 copay. So if I go in to see my regular doctor because I'm not feeling well and he sees me and prescribes medication, when I walk out of his office, I'm going to pay a $25 copay. If I go in and see my cardiologist, and again, he visits with me, checks me out, sends me out the door, I'm going to pay a $25 copay. If I go outside the network, again, I'm going to pay 40% of the cost of the claim, but I have to meet my deductible first. So I'm probably going to pay all of that office visit. So it's really important, again, when we can, to stay inside the network. This is a common theme as we go down the list. You'll see that in network, most clinical or office visit scenarios are going to be covered by a copay. If you go out of network, you're going to pay a percentage of the claim after you met your deductible. This plan does have chiropractic and acupuncture coverages. In network, it's a $25 copay. It's a limit of 30 visits per year for chiropractic, 20 for acupuncture. If you go out of network, you're going to pay the majority of the claim. Again, after your deductible, you're going to pay 40%. The insurance is going to pay 60%. As we start getting into these items that aren't covered for a copay, and I'm going to go through this briefly, you're going to see percentages in network and out of network. On your particular plan, the in-network benefit is 80% on most covered expenses. If you go out of network, the covered benefit is 60%. So what you're seeing here is this is your share of the claim in network. This is your share of the claim if you go out of network. So again, basically, twice as much coinsurance if you use non-network providers. This is for everything from radiation treatment, chemotherapy, lab work, MRIs, CT scans, x-rays. You're going to find that a lot of diagnostics, PET scans, MRIs, they're all going to be covered at 80% in network and 60% out of network. The one thing I do want to point out, though, is if you look at emergency room services, ambulance, these are situations where you don't have a choice. If something happens to you and you're being rushed to a hospital, you can't make a choice to go to a PPO network provider or not. So when you look at those two categories of coverage, you're going to see that the coverage is the same in network and out of network. So when you look over at non-network, it's going to say it's going to be covered as if you were in network. They're doing that simply because they realize you don't have a choice in those scenarios. They're going to take you to the nearest hospital, and you shouldn't be penalized because you went to a hospital that wasn't part of their PPO. That does change when we get to urgent care, because urgent care is not as serious. It's something that maybe is a bit more planned. There is a copay for urgent care and 40% covered or 40% coinsurance if you go to a non-network provider. We're going to get down here to prescription drugs, because that's something that most people utilize on a regular basis. There is some preventative prescription drugs and contraceptive drugs that are covered at 100% because of the Affordable Care Act. Again, that's if you remain in network. If you go out of network, you're going to see that almost everything is going to be covered at 50%. But in network, you're going to find that the prescription drugs are broken into 4 tiers. Tier 1, which is typically generic drugs. 85% of all prescriptions have a generic equivalent, so it's very simple to use a generic drug. I recommend using generics as much as possible because they are less expensive and have the same active ingredient as name brand drugs. Tier 2 is typically preferred or formulary brand name drugs. Tier 3 are non-preferred or non-formulary drugs, usually specialty drugs that are newer, more expensive. And Tier 4, specialty drugs. This category is largely self-injectables or compounded prescriptions. You're going to note that in network you're going to have copays for generics, copays for brand name formulary, copays for brand name non-formulary, and coinsurance, or a percentage you'll pay for those expensive self-injectable drugs. When you look down the list of non-networked providers, which means non-network pharmacies, you're going to see you're going to pay 50% of the cost. Again, when you access the Anthem Blue Cross Pharmacy Network, you're going to see that almost all of the major chains and many of the mom and pop pharmacies are all part of their network. It's very simple to utilize an Anthem Blue Cross pharmacy. The The rest of the benefits that you might want to look into in more detail are going to be in your summary plan description, which is inside of your Employee Navigator portal. If you have any specific questions regarding this plan or the other plans available through your employer, please feel free to reach out to us at Pacific Coast Benefits. Thank you very much.